everyone. Folks, we're just waiting for people to attend. In the meantime, you can take a look at the agenda. Or, better yet, introduce yourself in the chat so people can see where you're coming from and your genealogical interests.
Well, we'll just go. Hmm. Why is it not going, Doug?
Rhonda, we can hear you.
Yeah, you might want to mute yourself, Rhonda. It would help if everybody mutes themselves, and then when we get to the discussion part, you can unmute yourself.
He wants me to mute me.
Oh, you just unmuted yourself.
We have a lot of signups for this one, almost 30, and so far 17 have popped in.
While we're waiting, I've been playing around. Roots Tech has a thing called where you can find your relatives online or on Roots Tech. And I think I'm up to last time I checked, it was over 8,000 cousins had signed in and
Wow.
connected to me. So if you haven't done it, it's kind of fun to play around. You do have to. I think it works off of their giant
Yeah, family tree.
trees on Family Search. So you have to connect yourself to that, and you have to opt into finding relatives.
Right.
But it's interesting. You can search. You can search for relatives that are related to a particular ancestor. You can search geographically. You can see if you've got, where you have people that you're related to and where they are in the world. What else? Oh, well, then when you click on it, it tells you how you're related. So, I mean, that's kind of fun to play around with.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I suppose the only caution is just that it's working off of course, their world tree on Family Search is created by people who log in and create trees. So add
Right.
to the tree. So it's possible there's some errors there. And
Probable.
if you really want to know if you're related to the person, you probably need to follow the whole trail and see
You know,
whether
uh,
it's well documented or not.
hey Wayne, maybe if we have time at the end, you could sign in and show people what it looks like.
Oh, I could do that. Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
see that.
Okay. Maybe we should get started. We have, I think, 16 people attending. That's about half who signed up, but I've disabled the waiting room so people can just jump in when they sign on. And as I said, please use the chat feature to introduce yourself and let us know where you're coming from and what your genealogical interests are. And we'll get started. We'll just look at this agenda real quick. And as Wayne mentioned, Roots Tech, which is the largest family history conference and genealogy learning library, starts in 2 weeks, March 5th through 7th. You sign in by using your familysearch.org account. It's very easy. And there are a lot of virtual presentations you can attend, and you can create your own personal schedule for that. And then these are recorded, and you'll be able to, if you don't make it, you'll be able to view them later. So I think please go ahead and check that out because I'm sure you won't be disappointed in what's going on. And of course, it's happening uh, as well in Utah live. So, but these will be many of these are virtual, and you'll be able to check them out. Okay, just want to give a shout out to conferencekeeper.org, which is a gigantic calendar of genealogy events. Our presenter today, Lynn, found us through that portal, and every day there's a huge number of genealogical workshops going on. So I'd say that take a look at that, and you can sign up for their newsletter that will remind you about what's going on. Okay. Also, we are recording this, and it will be up on our YouTube page in a few days, so you can then take a look at it and review some of the topics that we're discussing. I'd also like to perhaps share with you, just take a few minutes here, some of uh, our archival uh, files that are we offer to people. I may have to stop my share here. Let's see if I can just get to it real quick. It's probably easier to stop my share first. And then add, okay, I'll be right back with you guys. So the first thing I'd like to share is, okay, I hope you can all see this. This is our YouTube channel. The
Yeah, it
Windham
came up,
County-
Jerry.
Okay, good, thank you. Windham County Genealogy Interest Group. And all of our videos are there. We have 24 videos recorded from our previous presentations going back a couple of years. And I'll put a link to that in the chat, and you can check it out, bookmark it, go back to it. But also you'll get a link to this one we're recording today when it's ready, and you just click on that link and that'll bring you right to it. The other thing I'd like to just mention is our files on our Google Share. And did that change, Wayne?
Yeah, it
Okay.
changed.
So we'll send a link to this as well. But as you can see, we have meetings going back to 2020 where we've shared all of our PowerPoints and other documents that we've talked about in our presentations. So we'll have a folder of the 2026 meetings, and you can check that out too. Download anything you'd like. That's perfectly fine. And let me stop the share. Linda, you think you're ready to share? Okay, Lynn's sharing her screen, so we'll get underway here.
You can see it.
You're muted, Lynn. So
As I was being careful not to be chattering to myself while you were talking. So it looks like everything's working. I will
cool.
run slides
Thank
from
you.
the laptop and then can see everybody on the desktop and my notes here as well. So thanks for including me this morning, Jerry and Wayne. I am excited to share some information with everybody. First, I'd like to give a little background on this presentation. The idea from this presentation came out of the discussion at the end of our December meeting. And Tim, I'm glad to see that you are here today because you are the reason that this presentation is happening. Tim shared that he had discovered a collection of letters that were sent to multiple generations of the family who had previously owned his property. He was in the initial stages of figuring out what to do with the letters and how to preserve them And during the discussion, members shared ideas and suggestions about archival storage, possible donation locations, publication options, working with the handwriting, and more. So when Wayne and Jerry and I met to finalize the topics for today's meeting, expanding on that discussion seemed like a good option. I do want to mention that this presentation, my presentation, does not cover use of AI, partly because you'll use the same or similar process steps when using AI tools, and also because Wayne's presentation coming next focuses on using AI with documents, and he can share much more detail on those tools than I can. A quick housekeeping note. I'll have a couple of yes or no or hand wave questions for you as we go along, but I'd ask that you drop questions and comments into the chat or hold them until the end, as we should have some time for discussion then. All right, next slide. I've got two mice here. I should have everything going. Okay. This was a fun slide to put together. I suspect that most of you know this already, but for those who may be new to genealogy, it's very likely that you'll run across a handwritten document while working on a genealogical research project. And the further back in time you go, the more handwritten documents you'll find. Could I get a wave or an emoji if you've ever gotten stuck while working with a handwritten document? And if there's a particular type of document that you consistently find to be more challenging than others, would you let us know in the chat? You might not be the only one with the same challenges, and we might be able to crowdsource some solutions at the end. Handwritten documents can be fascinating to work with, but can also present a very interesting and mix of challenges. Interesting might not be the best word, depending on the challenges. Starting with identifying the type and usual format of the record or document you're working with, then deciphering the penmanship and writing style, going on to gain an understanding of the content within the context of time, place, and culture, and finally capturing your work and making publication and sometimes preservation decisions. At each step along the way, you may need to take a different approach in processing the document and the information it contains, depending on how it relates to your research question or project. I'm excited to share some suggestions and tips that I found helpful, and I hope that they'll be useful for you as well. And a quick note on the images, the document samples on the slide were all written by or about Vermonters. The earliest was from 1832, and the most recent was from 1988. Ooh, pension files. We have one to play with today. Next is our overview. So you have a document. Maybe it's a census record entry or a portion of a military pension file, a town or land record, a probate or other court record, or closer to home, a diary entry, a letter, a recipe, or even a note tucked inside a dish in a china cabinet. What do you want to do with it? As in, what's your end goal? And what do you need to know to reach that goal? Those questions can cover a lot of ground. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about some ways to get from where you are to where you want to be, including some resources to help with reading old or poor handwriting, transcription tips and resources, using available context to help decode or better understand the context of a document, creation of short and longer term plans for a document and the information it contains. We'll touch briefly on publication and preservation options and some ways to add depth or additional interest for your audience. And then if there are questions, I'll do my best to answer. I realize that's a long list and it might sound tedious as you think about working through it, but the amount of time needed and level of detail involved in working with a document will vary depending on the size and scope of your project. For example, developing a proof argument using probate and land records will generally need more time than collecting vital records for a lineage society application. Preparing a write-up of a letter to share at a holiday gathering might take a phone call or two to ask about family shorthand, but the final document might be only a page or two. Capturing a diary entry or a portion of a letter to post on social media could be even less than that, even with images and citations included. Let's move on to handwriting. Did your relatives pay attention in penmanship class? Or were they like my grandmother, whose handwriting was consistently rated as needing improvement on her school report card? We laugh about this because it's a fun family story, but legibility and readability are two of the potential challenges when working with handwritten documents as part of a genealogical research project. So some handwriting resources. There are a lot of them out there that can give you far more and better information than I can, especially in a short time. So I've linked them here. The slides will go up onto the Google Drive for you to access later on. So don't worry about capturing all of this now. Tim, I see you with your camera, but the slides will be available as well. So tutorials and webinars, search engines, image manipulation. There's a lot of things that you can do to help make your document more accessible to you. What does that squiggle say? What's behind that ink blob? Those are great questions, and the answers depend on a lot of variables. There's no one single answer to sorting out what the squiggle says, but there are some really good resources that can help you find the answer. My recommendation is to start with the Library of Congress Research Guide. It has the clear explanations and provides additional resources and references within the guide categories, including hard copy or digital books. Legacy Family Tree Webinars has a ton of webinars. If you search the handwriting category, there are 8 or 10, I believe. And I think some of those are free. Some of them do require a membership. If you're not familiar with Legacy Family Tree webinars, they do routinely have free webinars. Anything that's new is usually held for a week as free before it goes behind the membership paywall. BYU, thanks to the suggestions from the December meeting, BYU has an introductory video and a series of tutorials for working in different languages. The Family History Library has a handwriting tutorial by James Tanner. I have heard him speak in the past, and the tutorial seems like it's pretty comprehensive. You can also look on membership sites like Family Search or Ancestry or MyHeritage. Look under the education or the help topics. There may be some assistance there. You also can look if you're trying to figure out how to decipher a particular type of document. I saw pension records in the chat. You can also just put a search in how to read, Revolutionary War pension records, Civil War pension records, and see what comes up. Somebody may have posted something that will be helpful for you. There are a lot of blogs out there. You can let the search engine do the work for you and see what help you can find there. Image manipulation, use the software tools to improve the view, make it bigger. That's my general solution is make it bigger in hopes that I can figure out what's going on. Some AI tools have shown good results in adjusting contrast and bringing up faded images with, I think, minimal hallucinations. Wayne will talk more about this, I think, in his presentation, but you can also find a lot of information online. And there is an AI-focused Facebook group that may be of interest as well. Lynne Snyder, who is prolific in publishing genealogy-related information, is the moderator for that group. And so far, I've seen a lot of good info. So if you are comfortable using AI tools or want one to play with, this might be an area to explore. All right, let's go on to context. So I have a story for you. It sounds like a story about transcription, but it's actually a story about context. My first introduction to transcription had nothing to do with genealogy. I was a teenager in the 80s in northern Vermont. I had just discovered the Eagles rock band, and my Hotel California cassette insert did not include the song lyrics. So I sat myself down with a pencil and notebook and wrote them out, back and forthing on my cassette player keys when I get stuck on a word. Stop, play, stop, forward, play, reverse, stop, play, forward. Was I able to figure out all of the lyrics? No. Would I have understood the meaning of the lyrics even if I transcribed them correctly? Also no, because I didn't have the right context. Merriam-Webster has defined context in 2 ways. The parts of a discourse that surround a word, phrase, or passage and that help to explain its meaning, and the situation in which something happens, an environment or a setting. If you're familiar with the song Hotel California, think about the first 2 lines. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. That's really straightforward. It's the setting, it's the environment. Easy. The 3rd line stumped me. It sounded like something gas, which made sense in that it was a word I could hear. And I'd seen the little oil pumps in California in pictures. Maybe they drove through a petroleum stink. Who knows? I'd driven through what was known as the Sench Trench in Montreal, a low area where the exhaust gas collected. So to me, that made sense as a possibility, because that was the context I had. I did eventually figure out that it was only one word and not something gas, so I decided it must be some type of West Coast flower and moved on. Never bothered to look further until I was putting this presentation together. For those who don't know, the next lines are warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. According to Wikipedia, a likely option is that colitas is Spanish and refers to the flowering buds of the cannabis plant. You have to have context. On a more serious note, when you're working with a handwritten document, use both aspects of the context definition for best results. Your external, what is the environment? Where is the document from? How did you find it? What is it connected to? What is the source? And then the internal, what does the document say? What clues within the document can you use to learn about what the document's about? If you're not sure, if there's a phrase that isn't familiar to you, pop it into a search engine. You may be able to find something that will help clarify the information for you so that you can more fully understand what is going on with your document. We'll have some examples of this later on. And make sure that whatever you find that you capture, add it to your notes, add it as a quick footnote, some way to capture the information that you've learned so you don't have to go back and do that search again. Right. Transcription. You may not need a full transcript of your document. Oftentimes you won't. But if you do, it's worth looking to see if that work has already been done. If your document's online, there's a possibility that it has been transcribed or indexed, or that another site might have a clearer copy. I've seen this pretty often with newspaper clippings. Although they aren't handwritten, you may choose to transcribe portions or the full clipping so that you can add footnotes with additional information or highlight certain areas related to your specific research project. There aren't as many resources out there for transcription, partly because voice-to-text technology works fairly well, as we know from the wide usage of closed captions and voice memos, and partly because the general consensus seems to be that if you can read it, you can write it down. There are some webinars at Legacy Family Tree, and the search phrases I've noted on the slide bring up some reasonable start points if you want to investigate further. All right, let's go back to my Eagles lyrics for a moment. When I was rocking back and forth on a few words, play, stop, rewind, stop, and on and on. Was that process efficient? No, because all I was doing was listening over and over, hoping for the words to become clear. I was not looking at the whole picture. Later in life, I learned to transcribe audio, and there's a lot of crossover between working with audio and with handwriting. If you end up needing to create a transcript of a handwritten document, or just want to give it a try, these tips might help. First, read through the entire document or passage first. What may be unclear at the beginning may be crystal clear further on. I learned this lesson for you the hard way. I spent far too much time on blurry words and phrases in hopes of figuring them out, only to have a clear repeat just a few minutes later, or a few sentences down in the article or document. Once you've read through it, create a first draft. Start at the beginning and capture what you can. Don't spend a lot of time on any one word or phrase. Just concentrate on getting what you can capture. Leave blanks as you need to and highlight sections that you're not really sure about, but you think you've mostly got. Now, fine tune. Go back to the beginning and start filling in the gaps. Can you use repeats to help confirm what you've captured? Note any sections that might need additional lookups or additional research for a clearer understanding of what's going on in your document. And now that you've got the resources part down, what are you going to do with your actual document? Let's talk about a short-term plan. But before we get too deeply into planning, I want to mention something that seems obvious, but can be quite difficult to acknowledge as a necessary part of the process. Are you a member of Team Oh Shiny? I am totally a member of that team. Have you followed a clue all the way to the bottom of a rabbit hole? It's fun and can be a viable option as part of a crowdsourcing effort because all you need to do is capture breadcrumbs to share with the person seeking the information. But if you're the person seeking or working with the information, you need more than breadcrumbs. You need to be able to document your research to show that your work is credible and also to avoid having to go back and doing it again. My projects are usually fairly small in scope, so I use word processing software, Microsoft Word usually, and keep the project document open next to my browser window so I can type or copy and paste as I go. I like having everything in one place, and if it's right in front of me, I'm more likely to use it. In relation to our starting question, what's your end goal and how will you get there? Your short-term plan can help you reach a point where you can appropriately evaluate the information you have and decide how to move forward with it. Or in other words, if there is no plan, there is no plan, and you'll be hanging out in the rabbit hole with me. Your plan doesn't have to be complicated, but you do need to write it down and revisit it as you progress through your project. The easiest way to keep track of your plan, your notes, your sources, and other information is to capture as you go. The KISS method definitely applies here. Choose whatever meaning fits best for you for that final S. This is what works for me. And use the capture method that works best for you. And I double clicked on that, so you've got the next chunk as well. Start with what you know. Just as when you started with your family tree, what do you know? Why do you have your handwritten document? Or why do you have it instead of, say, a cousin or a local museum? What's the backstory on that? What do you know about the origins of the document? Who is the author? What was it about? Who was it about? Writing out the background can help you identify information gaps or additional questions. Once that's done, create a basic citation or note how, where, and when you found it, whether it's an original or a copy, and any other information needed to locate or identify it again. Be specific. The person looking for it might not be you. If you found it online, copy and paste the direct link into your notes. I've included links to information about genealogical standards for citations and research that give much more detail about these steps. They're really important steps, but they also are really big topics. So I would encourage you to explore those if you aren't familiar with them. They are excellent resources and will help you become a stronger and more confident researcher. And the next steps, what will you do? What do you need to do to be able to evaluate the document and the content in relation to your project? I tend to think of this as like a flow chart because sometimes it's helpful to work through the paragraphs or even sentences and then relook the document as a whole. Is it legible? Can you read all the words? Are there ink blots or blurry spots that you need to further investigate? Is it readable? Do you understand what's going on? Are there words or phrases that don't make sense to you? Do you have enough context? Are there words or phrases that seem to have special meaning or significance that might need a lookup? Is additional background research needed to better understand how the document fit into everyday life at the time it was created? Evaluate the content in relation to your project. What part does the document play? Is it the star? Is it a bit player that you'll note as confirming results from a different source or as a no results finding? Capture your findings and your thoughts while they're fresh. Don't let them sit. I've given you a lot of things to think about while creating your short-term plan, but the process can often be very quick. Let's look at an example. I can push all the buttons. Abel Grout was my fourth great-grandfather. He served in the Massachusetts militia and later moved to Windham County, Vermont. He lived in Brattleboro for several years and then settled in Stratton. I grew up in Vermont and attended the annual family reunion most years, so I was familiar with my family tree, but the first time I saw this image, I was new to genealogical research. I thought I was capable of reading old documents because half of my family on both sides had pretty illegible handwriting, but I quickly learned that penmanship in letters and recipes is quite different from that of a busy court clerk. I could read the identifying information on my hard copy printout and a few words here and there, but that was about it. The rest was a blurry wall of ink. All I really knew was that it was part of my ancestors' pension record. My short-term plan at that time, if I'd known to write one, would have contained the background and source and a mental note to save it for later when I had more time and a better magnifying glass. Knowing what I know now, I would include these additional notes so I would know where to start the next time I return to the project. Legibility and readability are straightforward. Can I figure out what the words are? Do I know what everything means? The context note here captures something that I missed in my first look, so I want to point it out. The 1832 Act of Congress is referenced in the printed portion of the document. I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen. It's in that middle section. But That clue might give insight as to why Abel Grout was in court at age 74, giving a statement about things he did more than 50 years earlier. So that's something to look at when you have your short-term plan. Go back and relook some of the clues. Maybe you need to adjust it a bit, or you can circle back to something you might have missed previously. Let's look at a longer term plan. So I've separated short-term and long-term plans because to me, the short-term plan is figuring out what you have in your document. Let me not wave my hands everywhere. What you have in your document and what your longer-term plan is what you're going to do with it as you go forward. So when you reach the longer term plan, and I say longer instead of long because we do want to come back to this sooner rather than later so you can actually finish your project and not have it hovering around for many years. So your initial short-term plan is complete. Well, let's regroup. You have your document. You can read it and understand it. You've identified phrases or background information that might need some extra explanation. You've evaluated the content against your research project and noted information gaps and new questions. Now what? Take a look at the information gaps and additional questions that you identified while working your short-term plan. Is more research needed to determine their impact on your project? How do you want to move forward? Using the pension affidavit as an example, let's say your lookup of the pension record, the Pension Act of 1832, indicated the possibility of an earlier or later pension application. Would you want to revisit your short-term plan and check for those before moving forward? Or would you simply note the possibility as an opportunity for later research and/or a new project and move on? Remember that every project needs an endpoint and where you stop is up to you. Once you've made a decision on your endpoint, begin preparation for publication. Okay, the word publication can be really scary, but try thinking of it as, because, are you writing a book? That's a big step. That's a big effort. That's really putting yourself out there. But try thinking of it as simply a way to close out your project and call it done. Sometimes projects can go and go and go and go and go, and you need to give yourself permission to stop. So publication is the way that you can do that. When you're thinking about publication, think about how you'll capture your findings and analysis to make them available to others, either now or later. How will you capture the information related to your reason for working with the document? If it's not a digitized copy, how will you protect your original document for future readers or researchers, or make additional copies available? How will you avoid repetition, repeating your work or repeating someone else's work, and make your information and insights and analysis available to future readers or resources? So, as a slide notes, how will you publish your finding? Depending on your project, you might decide on including a full transcript with extensive footnotes, extracted data for inclusion in a timeline. You may extract data for inclusion in a timeline or research report. You might decide on a transcript for a letter with notes to share with family in a holiday gathering, or a quick write-up of an amusing diary entry to share with friends on social media. If you're not sure how you'd like to publish, go back to the reason that you started the research project. Maybe you're using a record to fill gaps in your research, or this is one piece of a multi-part project. Or at the other end of the arc, maybe you wanted to better understand why a seemingly everyday item was kept in the china cabinet with a note instead of in the kitchen cabinet. Think about your audience and the best way to reach them. Who else might be interested in this information, especially if you have the only copy? What's the best way to share your project with your audience? Answering those questions will help you determine whether you'll publish the information for private or public consumption. So once you've made that decision, you'll include the data and the wording that you want to capture to reach your end goal. You'll add reference notes or bibliography if needed so that you can identify your sources of your information and find them again if you need to, and then publish it. But when you publish, celebrate as well. You have accomplished a big goal. Even if it's only a one-page document, you still had to work through quite a process to get from point A to point B. Share the information with the people who are with your audience or people who care about you and will celebrate your work with you. And make sure you save a backup copy and note any future possible projects, or start an initial document for those later projects. And the last piece on here, we just are going to touch on it, preservation. So a lot of times we're working with a document we find online. It's part of a records collection. You're trying to figure out what your person or your ancestor was, how they connect in with that record collection, and what you can learn from that. Sometimes, especially for smaller documents, you may have the only copy of that. So think about ways that you can protect that document, and how it can be best shared with people who may also have an interest, whether that's scanning it, whether it's protecting it using archival materials, archival storage options, or perhaps donating it to a local museum or historical society for their use, if that's something that they're able to take. So just to touch on those a little bit. It's not necessarily part of the handwriting process, but it does have a component for inclusion. So let's take this longer term plan and go back to our pension record. Let's fast forward a bunch of years. So the first time I looked at this document, it was hard copy. I couldn't read it. It was a wall of words. I had no idea. So I put it away. Someone had done a partial transcript and added in some additional detail. So family members had shared that around, and I was able to read that and get some idea of what was going on. Thanks, Jerry. But many years later, in preparation for a milestone reunion celebration, I wanted to learn more about Abel Grout's Revolutionary War service. A newspaper article said he'd served for 7 years, and I was interested in what he did and where he went during that time. I have 20 years of military service, and just moving around during my lifetime, I really had a hard time understanding and wanted to wrap my head around how soldiers got from one place to another, and just miles and miles and miles and miles of travel, all within a very short amount of time. So there are quite a few technology advances since my first look at that affidavit and the most recent. One of the things that I discovered was that the National Archives is currently engaged in a project with the National Park Service to transcribe all of the Revolutionary War pension records. So if you have not checked out the NARA website for your pension record ancestors, you may want to do that. They used I believe they used Family Search's AI. They used the records to train Family Search's AI. And overall, the machine transcription is very well done. It captures all of the formatted pieces and does a pretty good job at catching the names and other specifics related to that particular veteran. So I was able to look at, to get a clearer look at the type, both literally clearer and figuratively, clearer look at the type and length of service. And I found other record examples that also helped me understand what was going on. So if I were re-looking the longer term plan for this affidavit, these are the things that I would look at. I would want to make sure that whatever I prepare, the content needs to be digestible for family members with only a casual interest, because I have made many eyes glaze over at the Thanksgiving dinner table, getting really excited about pension records and Revolutionary War things and Civil War things, and this needs to be something that people who aren't quite as deep into the weeds on this as I am can learn from or get some information from. My goal on this particular plan was to present portions of this at our family reunion this past summer. I did want to do a full transcript with footnotes so that I could catch the pieces that I needed to add more detail on. Who were the people that were his commanders? What were the battles? What was more information about the battles that he was either participating in or nearby when they occurred? And as part of this, NARA allows researchers to update the transcripts on the NARA website. So I wanted to make sure that I gave back my piece of it. Anything that I could add as far as context or further transcription, I wanted to make sure that I could give that back to NARA for other people to use. One of the things I wanted to do was build a timeline of his service and map the service locations. He traveled, 200 miles from his home to some of the places where he was assigned, and then ultimately create a shareable PDF document to keep all the information together and something that could easily be shared with family. So that was my longer term plan, and again, it's quite simple, but with going through the process steps really helped me kind of get to that point. Let's see. This is the fun part coming up. I don't have a lot of examples because I wasn't sure how much time we would have, but I do want to touch on a couple of things. So in this longer term plan, you can see where I've added a little bit of additional depth to my ultimate document. I'm going to add a timeline. I'm going to add the full transcript. I'm going to add mapping parts and pieces. So when you're looking at adding depth to your end result, so you have your handwriting, you have your handwritten document, you've captured the information. What are you going to add to that to help give the clarification to a casual reader or someone who's not as much in the weeds as you are, so that they can appreciate the information that they're given and understand it appropriately? So you can add depth to give more context to your audience. It can be really whatever you want it to be. It can be, you can add whatever information it might be needed to enhance the understanding or interest in that effort. One thing to look at is the uncommon knowledge. We have an example coming up of some notations about a family who came down with scarlet fever. They reference the scarlet fever sign. Well, what's the scarlet fever sign? Let's go look that up. I looked it up, and it's a quarantine sign, and there were examples online. So that might be something that I could add to show what that might be. You can add a footnote to explain archaic or specialized terms. You can include a sample image of a referenced item like that sign. And this is also an opportunity for you to include information that you want future readers to know. People who may not have the access to family stories or information that you have had access to. You're going to want to note the significance of no longer used processes or terms. Like, we don't use quarantine signs most of the time anymore. You may want to include a basic family tree or birth or death dates for people involved to clarify exactly who you are talking about. And you want to explain connections to local or world events if that's applicable. So that's it for this slide. So the next one is an example. This is our scarlet fever example. This was, let me make sure I've got the right date. I found this in the back of a notebook. It must have been rewritten from another book, since the book it was in was a calendar diary from 1933. The writer was my great-grandmother, sorry. And she's talking about something that happened to her and her siblings in May of 1894. And she was born in, I believe, 1865. Sunday the 12th, Jim was taken sick with scarlet fever. Wednesday the 29th, Howes and Seth came down with it, which those names might not be fully readable if you aren't familiar with the family, but once you've spent time with them, you'll know who they are. Wednesday, the 30th, Arthur was next, and the scarlet fever sign was put up. That's that quarantine sign. Friday, June 21st, I was taken with it. John never took it at all. He was around with the rest of us all of the time. Friday, July 29th, the doctor fumigated, and did we rejoice to go out once again? So a couple of things that you can perhaps add to this might be, and if you have ideas, feel free to drop them in the chat. So adding the backstory for this, who was his family? Where did they live? Was there a public health records are available online for different time frames. So you may be able to find out if this was sort of an isolated incident in this town, or if this was part of a larger public health concern. There are records for Vermont that do show these are outbreaks at these times or these times and how many people were involved. Fortunately, everyone recovered from this, so no casualties to worry about. We would also, I would also include a quick family chart to show the siblings in birth order, and I'll maybe include a little bit of background information as to what they might have been doing in their lives at those ages, based on what other information I know. So just a quick example on this, but you can sort of see and hopefully get some ideas of things you can do with your documents, no matter what type they are. I think we go back to here, the next slide. And 1118. So I do have more examples, and if we have time, I can bring some up, but I do want to, I think, finish up at this point so that we can go on to the next steps. The presentation order today, I want to note, is listed in a way that was easiest for me to talk about, but it's not meant to be a checklist or a linear process. All of the steps are interconnected or really intertwined, and as you work through your project, you'll find that you'll bounce around. For example, you might need to begin a draft transcript to get an overview of the document content before you can identify knowledge gaps or additional questions to resolve. The research results related to contexts or terms within the document may result in a change to the way you intend to publish your results. I've talked a lot and given you a bunch of information. If your brain is now full, here are the key things to take away. 1, capture as you go. Just open a document and start dropping things in. Before you step away for the day, write down the next steps. Your future self will thank you. Keep it interesting and understandable for your audience and for yourself. One of the things, the most difficult part in preparing this presentation was narrowing the focus because there are so many great webinars, presentations, blogs, and other resources that provide a much deeper look at everything I've touched on today. I've included a couple of links within the slide deck, but I'd also encourage you to check out some of the previous Windham Gig videos on YouTube. Jerry's posted the link, I think, in the chat. The educational topics on membership sites like Family Search or Ancestry, the non-credit courses or events held at colleges or libraries in your area, and lastly, the events mentioned on Conference Keeper, which again, Jerry's already mentioned. And finally, my plea, please support local efforts in your research areas. Join the historical or genealogical societies or follow them on social media. That's how you end up in places like this. Take advantage of members-only website access and attend virtual opportunities when they're available outside your area. Engagement is a win for everyone and helps keep records and opportunities open for future resources, future researchers. My email is here in the slides. Feel free to reach out. I don't have a ton of time to play with genealogy, but I'm happy to share what I can help with if I can help. Or I may refer you to somebody who can help you more appropriately than I can. Thanks again for the opportunity, and I hope I've given you something interesting to think about.
Great talk, Lynn. Thank you. Wow. You packed a lot in there in 45 minutes.
So I wasn't sure quite exactly when I started. So
Yeah,
I
it
do
was
have other
approximately.
examples, but I felt that, let's just go with that one to touch on it.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of information. The slides will go up into the Google Drive. I think I can upload them, Jerry. Can I do that,
Yes,
or do you
sure.
do that?
I'll send
I'll
you
do that.
I'll send you the permissions to do that. Yeah.
Okay. If not, if that doesn't work, I can email you the slides. No
Yeah.
big deal.
Right.
Okay. Are there
Wonderful.
any
Yeah.
questions at
Questions.
the moment?
So Lynn, I'm curious about the pension record. What you said when you first got it, you couldn't read it. So how you were able to find a better copy of it online? Is that
So
how
when
you
I
went about
first
doing
had
that?
it was a printout, and those are larger than a standard piece of paper, like the scans for those. So even with the page that I had, it was just small, and it was not very good quality. I mean, this was in the late 80s, early 90s. So it was a photocopy or or a printout from a microfilm on not great resolution and not great paper and not great a whole bunch of things. So what improved was just the technology piece, being able to have a clearer view of the microfilm. I didn't see the microfilm on a microfilm machine, so I didn't have that opportunity to adjust the sizing and look more closely at the handwriting. I also had more experience reading handwriting by the time I came back to it. So it was but the biggest piece was just being able to blow it up and make it bigger on a screen where I could compare what does this word look like versus this word. This was also after spending years working as a transcriber for audio, so I could use some of the same techniques for that. The best advantage for anybody working with the pension records now is my recommendation would be to go through the NARA website and open them there. You can resize them. You can see if there's a transcript already available, and see if that helps you find your way forward. Does that answer?
Yeah. I wondered if could you take a minute and show how to get to that,
Oh,
how to
sure.
get to those records, because it kind of plays into what I want to do next.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a quick
Yes,
question. Maybe you can answer it first.
I can.
Have
Have I ever used Transcribus? I have not. I haven't really explored a lot of the I haven't really explored a lot of the apps out there, but I know that there are a bunch of them. I did do a quick search for to see what apps might be out there, and I would definitely be interested in hearing if there's a particular app that you all have had successes with. Let me pull up the NARA website. I'm going to
Transcribus is in presentations I've been to, a lot of people do recommend that one. I haven't tried it myself either, so I don't know.
I'm going to try to share my screen so I can go to the NARA website. Okay, it's not glamorous, but I think it'll work. Yes. So
I mean, the reason I ask is just that I've not found it easy to find the files. I mean, now that I found it, I've got a,
bookmark, yeah.
link.
So
But
the way that I tend to get there, actually, if I could type. So is the National Park Service website, because they have highlighted their Revolutionary War pension file transcript project. And they have a link to the article about that. And within that, if I can get to the right one, this is a really bizarre way to get there, and I will find the actual one. But there is Become a Citizen Archivist, Transcribe Revolutionary War History Now. And this takes you to the NARA piece. So you can get there from the NARA piece if you go to the Citizen Archivist dashboard. I never remember that part, so this is how I get there. But start with the Citizen Archivist dashboard. So you can help transcribe the military pension files, and this is the link to where you need to go. So search within this series, and then you can just drop in whoever you're looking for.
Out of curiosity, have you uploaded your transcription of his records?
Yes. So actually, I worked with it actually right in the on the NARA webpage. So the affidavit is, let me get to the right, let me move the Zoom piece out of the way. So there's two scrolling pieces. You've got your outside to move everything, and then you can scroll within the record itself. This is the affidavit, which is, so you can see the piece that I shared with you on screen earlier. There's more to it, and then there's a whole nother page of it as well. So
So when it says transcription available, that's
Yes,
what
you
you
can
did.
click on it. You click on the transcript available. The machine, it's a combination. It doesn't show who did what, but it is a combination. You know, the machine transcription, and then I went through, I copied it out into a document and then played with it and then copied it back in. But you can log in to contribute. It's very easy to sign up. And then basically it walks through, you know, everything that's here before the said probate court, able grad, a resident of Stratton, and you just go through everything in the document. The said able grout declares and says that he entered the Army of the Revolution in the said month of August 1775. And this is where he was, this is when he enlisted, and who he worked with, where he went, and it's all just, it's a lot. So once he finishes the descriptive piece, there was a series of questions, interrogatories, prescribed by the War Department. So for each of these questions, he provided an answer. Some he had already answered in his affidavit, but some he also answered here. And this is a really cool piece of it right now. This is a very cool piece. One, where was he born and when? He doesn't know any more than his memory of how old he is. He thinks there might be a record. And then where he went. This to me was genealogical gold, because in his own words, he's telling me when he moved from Templeton, Mass to Brattleboro, and then from Brattleboro to Stratton. So I now know when I can go look for records for him in both of those locations. So there's a lot of really cool information in there. One thing I do want to mention here on the left margin, this is his actual time of service. So over a time of a bunch of years, he served for 16 months. He did have enough service to obtain a pension, and then what happens after the pension was approved is a whole nother story. So does that help? Does that give you what you're looking for, Wayne?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
That's great.
So it's
There is-
a great
There is
resource.
a lot of information in those records. Yeah.
There is, and it's really quite easy to navigate this this series, to move things out of the way here, because if I search for him, he's also noted, like they have a tagging process, and he's noted or tagged as being part of or mentioned in these other records. He's the only able grout that is in there, which makes this much easier. If it was John Smith, it would be quite different. But he is, I haven't gone through all of them, but I do intend to. Billy Mann in particular ended up being a neighbor of his in Stratton and is in fact buried next to him. So there's connections, long-term connections between my ancestor and other people that were involved in military service during the Revolutionary War. Samuel Mixer was his brother-in-law. He did a deposition for Abel Grout as part of his record. So there's a lot that you can see. The indexing is quite well done from what I could tell. And they are working on tagging as well as transcribing. So it's absolutely worth a visit, and to me is an enormous treasure trove. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Jerry, for
Do
including
we
the
have other
link.
questions?
I don't see any.
Okay.
So I think everyone's brain must be full.
I'm going to put a link there as well to an article using Revolutionary War pension files to find family information, which is on the NARA website. So that's an article written in 2015 in Prologue, which unfortunately I think it was the magazine that NARA would issue. I think they don't do that anymore. I think they discontinued that magazine, which is unfortunate because they had lots of good records there.
Okay, and you've got the pension files one that I just
Yeah.
added. If
Cool.
there's interest later, there's also an article called Follow the Money. And that is worth a look.
Was that Watergate?
No, it's about Revolutionary War pension records. What happened
I'm
after?
sorry.
Yeah, I know. So what happened after it's tracking Revolutionary War Army pension payments. And so it's definitely something I want to explore more. So this might end up being a topic and a discussion point
Yeah,
later.
we could do it. We could definitely do
But
it.
the article itself, I will put that into the chat, is just a really interesting read. And it's finding, someone had to figure out how to go through the records to figure out what actually happened after a pension was approved. How did the veteran actually get their money? And it's a really interesting look at that entire process, both from the federal level, the state level, and the local level, and just kind of the hassle factor that it was for the veterans to get the pension that they were awarded. So again, that's a topic probably for another day, but
Definitely.
it's an interesting one. So okay,
Great.
don't see
Okay.
other
I have a
questions.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Tim from Brattleboro. I just want to, I got this big project. I talked a little bit about it last time. So let me see here. I have these. This is a stack of letters. I have 4 banana boxes full of
I just
letters
can't
like
believe
this.
the treasure
And
trove you have.
and and just an example, I decided to put them in a bag. They're bound up, like, I don't know if you can see this or not, but they're bound up like that. And so I've been trying to. I thought the first thing I'd do would get them, categorize them somehow, either by date or by person. Um, but what I'm finding is that, like, each letter is folded up like this, and so then it's sort of opening it up. They haven't been opened up in 150 years, 200 years, and so I'm a little bit nervous about about doing that. And then as I open them up, I may or may not even be able to decipher anything because the writing is so. So it's a huge undertaking, but it's 3 generations. It's from 1832 till probably 1920 or so. Um, yeah, so that's sort of my long-term, short-term process.
So one thing you might look at doing is scan them or photograph them. If you can open them, if they've not been opened and the paper is still in good shape, a single opening carefully is not likely to cause damage, and you would be able to, basically carefully open them, scan them or photograph, and then put them back. And what you might look at doing is um, find some acid-free envelopes, and then you could put on the outside of the envelope the letter, the date of the letter, who it was to, who it was from, and then just pop the letter in there. So you can sort of build categories and have a way to file them that would keep them protected, but also organized in a way that you can come back to them. And then as you go through capturing the information in them, you could use the same reference information. So it might end up, you might need to find a numbering system or some other way to determine which letter is exactly the one that you're looking at. But you could cross-reference those from the physical letter to your digital document, and then work through some of the, just the steps to figure out what's going on with them. Can you read them? Can you figure out what's happening at that point? And it may be simpler just to include the image, and start with that and capture just the images of the letters, and then go back and look at what the content is when you can sort of spread them all out digitally and put them in an order that makes sense to you. You might try to follow, oh, I have a running conversation between these two people that went over a 5 or 6 year period. Maybe start with that and follow the trail of that letter set. Then go to the next one that you can start with, and can you find can you find the next breadcrumb in the trail that might have more information about whatever that conversation is, especially if it's related to business relationships or transactions.
Okay, that's great. And I mean, the other thing that's kind of an interesting clue is that these have been bound with string here, and so there's got to be some reason why he put them together. Either the date or the month, or so that's what. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'll just take one pack and then see if I can
Start with that.
figure out.
That's sort of the same thing, start, just I'll keep all those together, but within that, you could sort out what they are in that grouping and sort of make a subgrouping from there. And then once you get all of that done, you may be able to cross-reference, oh, I have some from this pile and this pile and this pile that are all written in the same year. Maybe there's some commonalities discussed among them. But I would definitely keep them at least for now, in the groupings that they were in, because as
Yeah,
you said, they
yeah.
were done for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I also need one thing. I need a bigger scanner. I just have a standard one, and some of the papers is
Is big.
bigger, and
So
so
does the library have a scanner, Jerry? I don't know, or the Historical Society, Jerry or Wayne? Does Rockingham have one, something like that that would be able to be used?
Yes, they do. It's a regular scanner. It's not a big, large one, but they do have a flatbed scanner at Brooks. Yeah.
Okay.
is it bigger than just your 8x11?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
Should be at
should be.
least equal
Yeah.
size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of
Right.
probably looking for like a blueprint scanner or something like that.
Well, no. Well, I have some bigger ones from the 1830s that are
Uh-huh.
bigger paper.
Yeah.
I tried scanning them on a smaller one, then trying to piece them together, but it got too messy. But
Well, I
because
mean,
Also,
you might try. I mean, I use an app called PhotoMime,
mhm,
which will do documents as well as photos. And with an iPad, you can get
pretty good.
pretty good
yeah,
resolution. Then you can blow it up.
well, as we talked before, is that they're folded,
Yeah,
and
Right.
folded. I remember now.
so
Yeah, that's
I need
true.
to
Yeah.
pull them down. Yeah.
So you could also check Staples. They may have a larger bed scanner that you could use.
Mm,
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, you might reach to an architectural firm,
that's a good idea.
if there's one nearby, which there should be, and see maybe they have, since they print on blueprint paper, maybe they are able to scan in some way as well. So whether that's either they have an auto stitch or something like that, they might have a different variant that would work for your particular situation.
That's a great idea. All right. Thank you very much. This is very interesting.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Maybe we should get on to Wayne's presentation. Wayne, you want to
Okay.
go ahead and up display your PowerPoint?
Okay. There we go. So this is using a machine to do what Lynn was just describing. Last time I talked some about the Notebook LM, which is a Google product. The underlying tool for that is this thing called Gemini, which is also obviously made by Google. So really what I want to do here is just show a couple of conversations that I had with Gemini, and it does really feel like a conversation, to be honest, and I'll show you that in a minute. So, well, to get there, you just go to this gemini.google.com, and there's a free version of it, which is what I'm using here. So, what I was interested in, again, kind of following up on what Lynn was saying, I got interested in Revolutionary War ancestors. And I started out, I knew I had a couple of them. My grandmother was a member of the DAR, so I knew about one, and I found a couple of others. And then more recently, I decided, well, I wonder how many others I have. And so far, I'm up to 21 fifth great grandfathers. And a few of them did survive long enough to the point where they needed a pension. And so as we were just talking about, these pension records have a ton of information about what the soldier did, and if his wife survives him, there's a lot of family information because a widow's pension meant she had to prove that she was married. So here's an example. And what's kind of interesting about this one is that I am interested in this Zebediah Chandler. And this is a actually in somebody else's pension record. He wrote a letter in support of somebody else's pension, but it turns out to be pretty useful to learn something about him as well. So one of the first things I tried, just kind of a little side topic here, Ancestry does have and I have an Ancestry account. If you upload the document to the person's gallery on Ancestry, Ancestry can automatically change the handwritten notes into, and letters into easy to read text. At least, that's what they claim. So I thought, well, I'll try that out. So I uploaded this to Zebediah Chandler. And where it says in the gallery there, you can see it says transcribe this and automatically change it. So I did that. And then I got this message that this tool is not available with your current membership. And they want me to upgrade. Well, I figure I already spent a lot of money on Ancestry, so I didn't want to upgrade. So then that's where I stumbled into thinking, well, I'll try one of these other AIs. So here's Gemini. I asked it to, what I hoped was enough of a prompt just to transcribe this deposition from a Revolutionary War soldier, and ask not to add anything, and if words couldn't be transcribed, to leave it blank. There are probably just creating the prompt, I think, is probably one of the more important pieces of trying to use any of these tools. I wanted it to know what the context was, again, following up on what Lynne's been talking about, that the AI also needs to have some sense of what the context is. And sometimes it's pretty good about figuring that out, but if you tell it, it helps move things along. And I didn't want to, I was trying to avoid it just making stuff up. I wanted to try to be strictly using the document that I gave it. So anyway, it I thought did a really good job with this. The AI it works mainly by just trying to predict what the next words are going to be, and it seems to do a pretty good job with the handwriting recognition. We just talked about the National Archives, so I don't want to spend a lot of time with that, but I appreciate that, Lynne, you could show us how to get there. They are looking for volunteers to do these transcriptions, so if anybody's has a Revolutionary War soldier they want to follow, and if you end up transcribing anything, by all means, add it to this National Archives project. This is a similar screen to the one we saw earlier with Lynne's presentation in the last part there. This is a widow's application. I guess you call it an affidavit or a declaration, where she is applying for the widow's pension. So the document's on the left there. This is off of the National Archives website, and this is a machine transcription where it says, you click on the little box where it says extracted text. Because as you can see on the left on this one, there is no transcription. Nobody has put one on there, but there is a machine transcription that you can start with. So I asked Gemini to transcribe it, and this is the result. The thing that I enjoyed about Gemini is just that in addition to doing the transcription, then it asks questions. It prompts me, or it's if we're having a conversation, would you like me to research any of the names mentioned in this deposition? to help verify the service records. So I thought, wow, this is cool. So Gemini searched online for additional records and found the official records from the New Hampshire Revolutionary War rolls. It also was able to find information about the captains that he served under and a little bit about what, a little bit of information to kind of verify what was in the deposition that she made. So I was particularly interested in this Captain Jeremiah Ames, that he was, that you can verify that he was a part of this company of Rangers. He was appointed the captain of the Rangers. He was tasked with scouting the northern frontiers, it was called at that point. And to verify that this Caleb Marshall, again, was my grandfather, was part of that. So then I was curious for it to ask, to give me some sources, like, did you just make this up or is it real? In other words, did you actually find something? So when I asked that question, it came up with the federal pension application files. There's a series of books called the War Rolls, the Hampshire State Papers. It's a little confusing if you do have New Hampshire Revolutionary War soldiers. There were multiple volumes of these state papers, and they're labeled, for example, volume 14 is actually volume 1 of the Revolutionary War rolls. So it's a little confusing when you first look it up, because you might find a reference to volume 1 or you might find a reference to volume 14, and they're really the same thing. Then it also found a history of Coos County in New Hampshire, and that had additional information. So I was kind of pleased that there were actual sources that Gemini could identify and show to me. So then I was curious whether it could come up with actually creating formal source citations, and this is the result here. Now, the thing that as I was going through this, the thing that I missed, and it was kind of a critical error on both Gemini's part and mine, is that this says source citation. So Zariah Marshall, Widow's Pension Application W21762. The W stands for a widow's pension. And what I missed was that this was actually not her application. I'm totally amazed that evidently there must have been another Zariah Marshall, but I didn't catch this on the first time through. So I was playing around with it and carrying on the conversation. I asked it if it asked if I wanted a timeline based on the documents. I said, well, that's a good idea. Let's get that. So this is, and again, so this is the result based on the information that it was able to come up with. There were several documents here. They had to, there were several battles with Indian raids, and when it became too difficult to stay there, they would travel 170 miles back to their hometown back in Hampstead, New Hampshire. So it was kind of, it put the information in a light that I hadn't really seen before, and thinking about, okay, here's what they had to do, and they, they went back to Hampstead, basically got reinforcements, and went back up to Northumberland, New Hampshire. So it gave me information that I hadn't really thought about before in a format that that was pretty useful. If there's anything I want to leave you with here is that if you use this and probably any of these AI things, you really need to verify what they're giving you. For example, Gemini gave me a list of children from a Bible record, and none of them matched what the known children of this couple. So I paged through all 116 pages of the pension file, and there was no Bible page in there. And I suspected that it was just making stuff up, but it was finally at this point that it dawned on me that it gave me a source file and it was the wrong file, and I realized that. So I gave it the correct one. It confused her application with another one, so there was no Bible record in her file, and it just very emphasizes the point that you need to double check the Gemini's work. However, Gemini is actually quite polite and willing to take corrections. So it says, thank you for that correction. That shift in the number is critical as it changes the family data entirely. So I said, yeah, that's right. It got me to the right family with the right children and so forth. So with the correction made, Gemini was able to combine information from the pension file with a book published by Zariah's daughter. Her name was Mary Marshall. Zariah's maiden name was Marshall. Oh no, her married name is Marshall. I'm sorry, but this is her daughter. And the other thing I was quite surprised about was that Gemini could found that book without any of my help. It just searched and found it and came up with the information. So it used the new information to look for the key facts and gave those to me. Still makes some errors. It identifies this Caleb Jr. as the eldest child, the eldest brother, and that's not correct. And it was able to reconstruct the family. It used some of the information from Mary Marshall's book. She described her family in one of her books, and combined that with a history of Stratford and with the pension file. There were still errors. The child Abigail was married to a Christopher Bailey, not Abner Bailey. And I'm not sure how it made the connection between Abner Bailey and the deposition witness whose name was John Bailey. Not sure how it came up with that. It is able to integrate other historical information. Again, the whole idea of getting a little broader context of what's going on. The history of Stratford was, provided information about what was going on in the Coos, what's called the Coos frontier. This is just a very northern part of New Hampshire. There were well, the soldier's life, the private struggles. Mary wrote several letters in that pension file supporting her mother, and described the financial toll that the war took on the family. They used a lot of their own money to build a fortification and firearms and so forth. I mean, one of the things to remember is these pension files, for the most part, they also had to prove that they needed the money, that they were, that they were struggling. Oh, I know. I also provided it with a link to the memorial on Find a Grave. So then it asked me if I wanted a narrative biography of Caleb Marshall that I could, that I could use for some other purpose, either in a family history book or add to his Find a Grave memorial. So I asked it, I wanted to see what it would do. So it did. It was able to, I reminded it to try to work as a genealogist, although it seemed to keep that from the first, the first information that I gave it. I gave it to Memorial. It used the new information, but it didn't include the vital record information that it could have picked up off that Find a Grave memorial. So I was a little surprised at that. And I asked it to include footnotes. Most were accurate, but some were not. So here's an example of what Gemini came up with. Mary Marshall did write a book, this Rise and Progress of the Serpent from the Garden of Eden. And it was able to come up with the other information that it was using to create the narrative. So again, I thought that was a plus. The bad is that in some of these references, the children do have Find a Grave memorials, but none of the memorial IDs were correct in these footnotes. So again, a puzzle there as to how it came up with those numbers. Not all of the ones outlined there are incorrect. Does have another feature where it asked if I wanted to create a map description showing the migration paths of the children. One of them moved to New Brunswick, another went to Omaha, Nebraska. So it would create a description of where they went and where they were located. It also uses Google Maps and can pinpoint. And I just did a screenshot of the ones that were in the local area. For the most part, they lived on towns in the upper Connecticut River in New Hampshire and Vermont. But it'll show, it shows you exactly, where these towns are located, just visually. So a couple of tips. There is no save feature with Gemini. So when I was playing around with this, I literally I left my computer on and I left the browser open. And it was fine. I mean, I could come back to it a day or two later and still add more or ask it more questions. But if I had closed it, everything would have gone away. So my best advice there is if you get something useful and you want to keep track of it, to copy the chat session and paste it into a word processor or some other text to preserve what you have. Just another quick example. This is another Revolutionary War soldier. This is Joseph Stanley. So on the right is part of his declaration of where he served. It's interesting to me that Gemini does try to create and it's very encouraging. I suppose that's why these things are so attractive in other ways, in addition to just trying to do genealogy research, because I gave it this information, and then its first thing it says, this is a remarkable piece of primary source history. As a genealogist, I have transcribed the 2 pages from his 1832 pension declaration below. I have maintained the original spelling and punctuation and using brackets or insertions for clarified text. So Gemini did a lot of the same things that Lynne did in her presentation. using brackets to add. If you're going to add something, you show that you're trying to clarify what's there, and it gives a transcription of I gave it 2 page. It was a 2 page thing. Went through both pages, which is fine. The other thing I kind of liked was it not only transcribed the handwritten document, but then it offered a summary of his service as he described it. Which year he served, which commanders that he worked under, and then it could summarize the whole thing that he served about 10 and a half months. Then it asked me if I wanted to find out more about the regiments that are mentioned in his declaration. So I said, well, sure. So it was able to search online for further information. It is kind of useful in that at the end of each one of these paragraphs, there's a little link, and one of them I've highlighted there. It's showing where it's getting the information. I mean, some of it was Wikipedia, some of it was like this New Hampshire Society of the Cincinnati. So I was kind of pleased that it wasn't just pulling things, just making it all up, that it was actually finding various links to give some context to what the regiment was doing and when it was doing it. Anyway, that's just my experience with a conversation with Gemini here. I did this gets a little bit apart from the strictly the Revolutionary War part of his life, but I asked Gemini if it could find a book online that I knew about that contains statements by Joseph Stanley and his wife Martha. This book is called The Portraiture of Shakerism, and it's again another book by this same Mary Marshall, the daughter of the examples that I had earlier. I mean, this is a whole different family, but ironically, they had a similar problem with being part of the Shakers in Enfield, New Hampshire. So these were, I don't know, affidavits, I guess you call them, statements about what their experience was with the Shakers. Mary Marshall had a very difficult life, and she spent most of it as a activist for women's rights, and basically attacked the Shakers. She and her husband joined the Shakers with their kids, and then Mary decided she didn't want to be part of the Shakers anymore, but was not able to maintain control of her kids. That they became part of the Shaker community there in Enfield. So she constantly advocated for her own rights, petitioned the New Hampshire legislature a couple of times. Anyway, that's where these books have come from, but they also included a lot of information that was useful to me in genealogy. Okay, that was just a little aside, I guess. It was just kind of interesting to me that they had a connection that way. So just a few words about constructing a prompt. This comes from a website that I've listed down there at the bottom, this AI Genealogy Insights. It's important, and it was very useful as I went through this to tell Gemini that I wanted it to act as a genealogist. So you need to give the AI a role and then a goal. What is it you want to know? what do you want to get out of this? Here's a role, a goal, text. In order to pull out the facts, you want to supply the text that AI will process, tell it how, what do you want it to do? Break down the steps that AI should do, and then the shape of the response. What do you want it to be? Like a narrative or a chart or a timeline and so forth. So those are, I tried to use that, and I think perhaps some of my prompts were a little too brief. I could have stated things a little more carefully to get back what I wanted. There is a website that does help you do that. It's called this Prompt Cowboy. So you give it you get what they call your lazy prompt, and it turns it into a great one. Just to show you an example here. I told it, acting as a genealogist, create a draft narrative biography that includes his military service, it includes his children, and includes footnotes and verify information that is included to verify information. And then it gave me all of this other information that you could copy and paste into Gemini or even one of the other AIs. Much more extensive prompt than I was thinking about, but probably one that gets you better results. So here's a quote from Gemini itself. It says, Gemini can make mistakes, so double check it. And with that, I'm going to stop. Let me stop the share. Whoop, there we go. Stop the share. Oh, okay.
Hey, Wayne.
Anything I can help with? Anything with anybody? Or should I get on Gemini and answer your question?
Well, I do have a question right off. So Gemini, you just log in with your Google account, right?
Yeah.
So
think I probably was logged in. I'm not even sure I had to do that.
Doesn't it save your history then? So you could call up a past session that you had with Gemini? I thought it saved all of that.
No, it doesn't save it.
Really?
So you do have to be careful with that.
Okay.
Fortunately, I never shut it off because
Yeah.
because I would step away from it and come back to it,
Yeah.
a day later, and I could just continue. It never logged me out or anything.
Okay. Yeah. So
there.
Actually,
when they came up with stuff that I wanted, I would copy and paste it. I mean, I even asked Gemini, I said, hey, is there some way to save this? And it said, no.
Right. I do see maybe with the pro account. Yeah. I do see one advantage of Gemini making mistakes, and that would be for teachers who are trying to find out if their students are just using Gemini. It's like, it's like Webster's dictionary. They would put in a false word and definition, and that way they could find out if somebody was reprinting it and violating copyright.
That's not a bad plan, although you'd be spending a lot of time if you were grading a paper.
Yeah, it's true. You'd have to check some of those, right?
Check their sources and stuff. But I think that's where, there was some lawyers that used these AI things for their briefs, and the judges or the clerks of the court or whatever did check and find out that,
they were just fake.
Sources were fake. And which was, it was interesting with the one that I had there, though, because for the most part, those sources were correct. I could go look up and find the pages and so forth. So why it made up numbers for a find a grave?
That's weird. It just
made no sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I'd give it like a B, a grade of B at least, on everything. If people like to ask questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself. You're welcome to do that.
Jump in. That was a really good explanation, Wayne. I had not played with really any of the AI parts, so it was interesting to see just the comparisons and how it works based in comparison to what I've done before.
Yeah.
So thanks. Oh, Leslie has a question.
Yeah, in the chat.
I'm not.
Oh, is it free
What
to use Gemini?
what is it?
Is it free to use Gemini?
Oh, yeah, there is this is what I was using was the free version. You can subscribe, and I'm not sure what else. It may be just there may be some limit on how many times you can
Yeah,
use it, in a day or week or whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah, there are limits,
the
definitely.
pro version
Yeah,
probably takes away those limitations. And I'm not sure what else it does. I've not used any of these enough that I've felt like it was worth it to subscribe.
right, to pay for something, right?
Uh, I don't use it often enough, or uh, I mean, I could see if it was part of, especially if you had a lot of stuff you were doing, um, some kind of research project
Right.
where you constantly were checking, wanting it to summarize
Oh,
different documents that you found and so forth.
I wonder if corporate entities have like special accounts where their staff can use it for whatever,
Yeah. Probably use it at Google.
Yeah, yeah. So if no one has any more questions, do you want to just show us a little bit of the Roots Tech Cousins thing real quick?
Oh,
Remaining time?
see if I can do that. Let me see if I can find it here.
That would be great. I have not explored that at all, so I am definitely interested in seeing that.
Let's see. Just a minute here.
Jerry, I have a question
Right.
while Wayne's bringing that up.
Sure.
For the registration for this, I'm not sure. Were you able to capture where people were coming from? I'm just curious how
Yes.
far our reach was today. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we did. We had people registered as far as as far west as Vancouver,
Mhm.
BC. Um, Let me see here. We had a couple people. I got a person from Texas, Oregon. Um, let's see, you're from Millersville, Maryland.
Yeah, and a couple of friends are here as well from Maryland.
Yeah. Okay. Louisiana, California, New York, Ohio, Akron, Ohio. So yeah, it would be great to know if, and I'm sure the people from outside the area probably got it through Conference Keeper, but if you can maybe post in the chat where you found out about this, about this session and the Windham County Genealogy Interest Group, it would be good to know.
Great. Thanks. Oh, and Wayne has shared his screen, so
Okay, great.
it's visible, Wayne.
So now this one, the easiest way to get there is just rootstech.org. And here I've signed into Family Search /en/rootstech. There, let's see if this works. Let's see, schedule, discover relatives. This is the part that oh, I thought I could just click on that. Okay, so because I had already signed in. It tells me I have 8,529 relatives at the event. So these are people who have signed up for Roots Tech in one form or another. I mean, I only signed up online, so I'm not going to Salt Lake City next week, week after next. So, but anyway, you can see, you can view your relatives. Just click there, and then should come up with a list. So this is right now. It's all locations, and so here's a fourth cousin. So if I click on him, whoop, let's see. Okay, so you click on that, you could chat with them, you can see a relationship, or you could contact them. So here's how you see the relationship. And I'm on the left side, and then this John 79100 is a descendant of a brother of my ancestor. So I have tried sometimes when I'm this only is available. Well, it's a few weeks before and after the Roots Tech, so it's not available all the time. But there are some times where I've tried to contact people to see if they have some information that I don't have.
Sure.
So here's another cool example, though, from
what's that 101 circle there? That's where most of your relatives are, huh?
Oh, anyway, I'll go back to it.
Yeah, that's what you can do that later.
This was the Stanley family that
Uh-huh.
where Joseph Stanley, the Revolutionary War person, is here. So I was this was kind of neat because his name is still Stanley. I mean, he directly descends from
Wow, that's a Y DNA right there, right?
the Stanley thing. Let's see if I can. Let's go back. So what did you see?
Well, see that bubble with 101 relatives?
Oh, yeah.
Where is that?
Let's
It looks
see.
like it's the Midwest. Or maybe they're just summarizing. Well, there's 91 now, so yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Where did they get the information from this? Leslie had asked this as well. Is this pulling the relative information from people who have created a family tree and family search?
Yeah.
Is that where it's coming from, or does it say?
Yeah. You have to have you have to do two things. You have to have added yourself to the family tree on family search.
Okay.
In other words, but create you generally there's so many people in that family tree, you probably don't have to go back too many generations before you actually are connected to the tree. In other words,
Right.
putting yourself and your parents, maybe your grandparents, I think by that point
You're
it
in.
is probably coming up with your family tree. So you connect yourself to that world family tree, and then you have to go to Roots Tech and opt in to this whole finding your Roots Tech relatives. I mean, it's not automatic. You can be part of Roots Tech and not be part of this
Okay.
relatives at Roots Tech thing. So you have to opt into that. But then once you do that, like I say, this is showing where all of these people that I'm related to live, or what state they're in. It doesn't get much more specific than that. So, if you click on these things, like 6 of them in New Hampshire, so then you can see who those 6 people are. Or click on the Vermonters. Anyway, so you can search that way.
Yeah.
The other kind of neat thing is you can search by ancestor. So in this case, for example, my 3rd great grandfather, Alexander Lewis, I have this 4th cousin who is also must be a descendant of him. So here's Alexander Lewis up at the top, and I'm down the left side, and this other person is down on the right side. So if
So
you were researching, you're researching a particular ancestor and you want to find out other people who might be doing the same thing, it's kind of a neat way to find that. This pops up, and so you can choose any of hundreds of ancestors here, and then it tells you how many other people. Like here's my Zebediah Chandler, and I've got what, one, two, these four people are also descendants.
Wayne, I have a question about so if
Anyway,
if I have I have a tree on Family Search, I'm listed there.
yeah.
So that's all that's required, right?
Yeah, you should be able to just go into Roots Tech
Weird. Yeah.
and click on
Yes.
relatives to Roots Tech.
I have
and it'll ask you,
no relatives on Roots Tech,
really?
which is definitely possible, you know. I mean,
Okay.
being a son of immigrants, maybe recent immigrants, I wouldn't.
Um,
Yeah,
um,
it's telling me nothing. It says view your relatives, and there's
use the
nothing
guide to
there.
keep all.
Yeah, nothing there.
Huh.
It's just
And you're sure you're connected to the um do you have family on that
yeah.
family search family tree? You have ancestors listed there?
Well, yeah, the dead ones.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. You need those in order to find out, because you're only going to
Yeah,
get, I mean, none of these are close cousins on my thing
r-
here. The
right.
closest was a fourth cousin. Most of them are like
Yeah,
fifth or sixth cousins or whatever, seventh cousins.
yeah.
Um, so you gotta,
Well, yeah, when I click on person list, it gives me three people and says this list of private and living people is visible only to you in this family tree search.
huh?
Yeah, it's a little weird. I'll have to explore it a little
Um,
bit more, see if there's a switch that I need to turn on.
well, did you go to Roots Tech and then click on find your
Yeah, yeah,
relatives to Roots Tech? Because you had to
yeah,
opt into that.
yeah, I
You did
did.
that.
Yeah, it's not
All right.
finding anything. It's telling me there are none, it's
Well,
weird.
maybe you're not. Maybe it's none then. I don't know.
Yeah.
See.
Well, actually, I didn't really spend much. I'll look into it a little bit more, but I have my name and I have the family search code, that they give every individual, you know, um, which is the family search ID. So
Huh.
I'll have to, I'll have to see, I'll have to see what's going on. I would think there'd be
Because
some like third cousins,
well, that's
somebody
what I
would.
mean.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm just surprised that you'd be the only one who's not. Well, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
are they not? They do not care about that so much in Italy because they already know everybody.
Well,
So,
that's a good
so
point.
they
Yeah,
don't need to be online looking up
yeah,
ancestors.
but still, all the American immigrant descendants
Well, yeah,
want to know,
you think some
and
there
I
might.
do, I have a lot of DNA matches, with third cousins and that, and you think they'd be on
Yeah, you.
Family Search too. Well, I might look up some of those relatives and see what, where they're connected to. See if
Well,
there's somebody there.
there is a way on there to send them a link and tell them to sign up for Roots Tech and
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
participate in the and participate.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try that.
Uh,
I did see a video about finding relatives at Roots Tech, so that I put the link
Oh,
in.
okay.
That
Oh, good.
might be helpful.
I'll
I
check
just
that
tried to
out.
register and see what I could see, but nothing, nothing back yet. I got the, oh,
Okay.
we'll send stuff to you in a few
Oh,
days.
oh,
So I'm
okay.
definitely interested to see if anything
Yeah.
pops up with that.
Yeah. You
Good to
guys are
know.
more likely to have somebody.
I would think you're going to find, especially since you have grown up family reunion things. It seems,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Oh, yeah.
probably
There'll be a
somebody
bunch.
in there.
unless you're the only genealogy nut in the whole group.
No, I'm not. No. And most of the ones that are further distant. I'm the one that's more local for things, but there definitely is interest in other branches of the family. So I'll be interested to see. And from the other side of my family as well, there's fewer connections
Yeah.
because it was more of an only child of an only child of an only child situation. But
Right.
still,
Yeah.
there's plenty of other people out there. So
Yeah.
definitely something to check out. Thanks.
Well, maybe we can report on that at our next meeting, which I didn't mention, but I think we've set April 11th. Is that what you guys have?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
right.
And so we'll be meeting, hopefully, the weather won't intervene then, and meeting at the library in Brattleboro and also on Zoom. Everybody who registered will get a link to the video, and we can put the link in for the registration for the next one too, in case anybody wants to register early.
I
So
thought there
I
was a
guess,
problem with the 11th, Jerry.
was there?
I
Okay.
thought we were doing it the 18th.
Oh, really?
No?
Oh, okay.
Did you already set something up with the library?
Oh, I'll have to double check on that. It's probably buried in one of my my email threads here. So did that maybe that was you kind of remember that. Okay. I'll see, look real here quick here, see if I can.
Let's see if I was just looking
Yeah,
to see. I don't have my calendar here with me.
yeah.
Upstairs,
I mean,
so
I don't have I don't have the library's email saying that we've reserved the room for that day. So
Oh,
yeah, that might be the issue. Any rate, well, I'll clarify that before I send the
I was gonna say,
video link out so we can, we'll know.
okay.
do we have
Yeah.
topics for next time or not yet?
Not yet, but encourage anybody in the audience who would like to present. Just let us know. Send an email to that email address that we have where you get your links, and we definitely will love to hear other people talk about their genealogical research and what they've found and any brick walls they've come across or any of those types of topics.
Research they're currently doing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's something that you want to know more about, between
Yes.
everybody, we might be able to come up with something that would be able to help with that. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, if there's nothing else, maybe we can sign off. I can go shovel some snow.
Yeah.
we're waiting. It's sunny here. I'm enjoying it. The snow here is finally melting. So we
Okay.
may be in for it tomorrow. So
All right.
envy you that. Thanks everybody for joining.
Yeah.
And I will breathe a sigh of relief because this is the first presentation I've done that wasn't data for a meeting for somebody for many, many years. So
Yeah. Well, you did well, and
Glad you
now
did
you
it. Looking
got
forward to
your
another one.
confidence. Yeah.
so yeah,
Okay.
some other ideas. Thanks everybody. Take care.
Okay.
Bye
Bye,
now.
everybody.
Thank
It'll
you.
be,
Thank you, everybody.
it'll be spring soon.